I didn't.
Yeah.
But I was worried that it was two different types of Spanish, you know. I was worried it was two different.
Sorry about that, Pooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know Spanish?
That happens sometime, right?
You know Spanish?
If you speak slowly, I understand.
Oh, I was speaking Honduras,
Yeah.
Central America.
Okay.
Speaking Cuban.
Okay. Are we ready then? If we're going to, this is for Civil Service College, yes? Excellence in Communication. We've been trying to establish a kind of, for want of a better word, a philosophy of communication. And we know that, of course, the basics of classic paragraph structure. Yes? Hello? The basics of paragraph structure are part of the bottom line, aren't they? They're the building blocks on which we build. Because even when we're speaking, do we need to use topic sentences and thesis statements and supporting details carefully as part of the communication? So we know that paragraph structure at its best, with those classic elements, must be at the heart, the foundation of our communication. And of course, don't forget transitions, because of course, our transitions are our linking words, that give continuity and what the textbooks call coherence to the communication. They actually do what? They make reading easier for the reader, and they make listening easier for the listener, because they connect the ideas, the words. Yes? Okay. And on paper, of course, it's very visible. They connect paragraphs and sentences. We call them the glue words with good reason, don't we? Then, of course, when we're thinking of a philosophy of communication, the next thing that comes to mind, and when we're looking at classic paragraph structure, of course, careful choice of words, what we call keywords. In other words, if you're planning a quick email, for instance, do you have to, you may not have time to write this thing 3 times, draft and redraft, yes? But when you're doing your rough draft, the things that you must make time to plan, and I would always do a first draft of these, are my topic sentences, my thesis statements, and my keywords. Yes. And of course, we know that openings and closings are very important. But perhaps the most, ironically enough, perhaps the most important thing of all in planning good memos, good emails, good letters will be, of course, what? Our subheading. Because we know there are people who believe they are too busy to read the whole thing, so what do? They look at the subheading and then they press delete. If they decide that this is not of use to them, or it is not of relevance to them. Now this can be crazy. Yes? Because many of you people will find yourselves in supervisory positions, in team leader positions. Yes? When you have to get out a lot of information quickly, and you want people, we want everybody to read these things. That's the bottom line. You want them to do what a friend of mine, may he rest in peace, put it as, pay attention. Yes.
And not just delete it.
Don't just press that delete button. Exactly. You want them to pay attention. Now, your subheadings, of course, are your best way to capture their attention, even before you get to your topic sentences and your thesis statements. And your subheadings should contain keywords. In other words, if there is an important deadline or an important meeting, yes, put this in your subheading. In other words, important, 24th of January. Exactly. In other words, if this is important, this date is important, get them now to stop what they're doing and find out why. Yes? Or you might say, important meeting, colon, February 4th, 6 p.m. If you put that in the subheading, even the busiest of people will stop and look at it. This is a fact. Yes. Okay. Well, we hope they'll stop and look at it. Okay. Now, this applies, of course, to written communication. But those are the building blocks, the foundation stones of the written ones. But generally speaking, if we're looking at a philosophy, an all-embracing philosophy of communication, one that will actually do what? Establish good relationships with the people with whom we are communicating. Are there, not to mention, make sure that we stay within the limits of what is legal, what is ethical, and not to mention what is useful. Exactly. In other words, you don't want to waste your time trying to communicate with people who then tune you out. And also, you want to make sure your own communication is what? Legal and ethical and effective, and therefore useful to you. Are there some things that we wish to pay attention to and we've been paying attention to? Of course there are. The first one, of course, is ethics. And we've recognized how important are certain aspects of ethics as regards technology and the use or abuse of technology. Exactly. The golden rule is, of course, think twice, check it out, recheck it if necessary before you press that send button. Exactly. And we're increasingly aware of this, of course, in today's world, where we see court cases on TV, for instance, when in actual fact, emails that people wrote are used in court as legal documents. Exactly. But when it comes to technology and our use of it, we have to think in terms of some of the golden rules of technology ethics in communication. This is what? Privacy and confidentiality. Respect these. Be aware of these and respect them. Then, of course, what's the next one? Intellectual or creative property rights. If people, some textbooks call this ownership. If people have come up with an idea, a suggestion, yes, not to mention they have done research, they've written a report, which perhaps puts important things in the spotlight, we must give credit where credit is due. On paper, this will have to do with what? Proper footnoting or a bibliography. Yes? When we come to our project, of course, we'll talk about that. But are we also looking at things like humanity? In other words, be humane in what we put out there into cyberspace. Yes. Okay. Then, of course, are we also looking at some other important aspects of ethics? The three ethical systems: rules-based, rights-based, utility-based. Yes? Now, when we were chatting just now, I asked each of you, to tell me which of the ethical systems you would choose if you, in actual fact, had to choose just one. Donna, you told me immediately. You told me immediately. Rights-based. We know, and you said that's because everybody should have certain inalienable human rights. We know that the rights-based system can be tricky because, of course, it demands maturity and honesty and charity. Honesty to face the fact and maturity to face the fact that where your rights end, mine begin, etc. Okay. And it can be complex the rights-based system, but you were very strong about that, Donna. You, Gerald, said, well, you would choose the rules-based system because of your particular area of work in the legal system, yes? And you would also choose the rights-based system. The utility-based system, as we said before, can be tricky because it can be used to make the ends justify the means. Yeah? And then, of course, Ms. Dishley, which one would you have chosen?
Right.
Rights-based system as well. Okay. Now, the rights-based system and the three major ethical systems, as we've said, you'll find them under different titles in different textbooks, but it's the same family in each case. Okay? Then, of course, will that lead us directly into the virtues? And we're looking at a number of important virtues, aren't we? Are we looking at going back to the Greeks, as we always, you know that expression, oh, don't look in the dictionary for it. The Greeks had a word for it. Yes? Okay. The Greeks said fortitude, temperance, justice, and prudence are the key virtues to get us through life. Yes? And of course, was it Plato who added something else to that? But I think it was Plato, or was it Aristotle? They all came up with it, but one of those two said, but of course, to practice these virtues, you also need a supportive, virtuous environment. And is this, of course, where, say, for instance, the police people, the people working in the justice system, might find themselves up against an ethical wall, an ethical dilemma, if, for instance, they go into a certain part of a city or a community where there is so much drug dealing going on, for instance, that the people in the community see the drugs as a source of money.
Yes.
They don't see any ethical or legal problem attached to drugs as long as you don't get caught.
No problem.
No problem. So will the police then have a problem because the environment itself is not supportive of virtuous or ethical behavior? And of course, many police people have gotten killed because of
The thing
this.
is with that drug thing, now when the police, you gotta be looking out for. You gotta be looking out for the ones that will steal it from you and the ones that kill you for it because they want to sell it. Then now when the police, you be looking for.
Oh.
I don't
In
want
other
that
words,
name like
it's
that.
like a cancer, isn't it?
Yeah,
The whole
it's-
drug business. But remember this issue that the Greeks pointed out, that your environment, that to actually practice the ethics and the virtues to the maximum means the easiest way we can practice these is when we have an ethical environment in which these virtues are actually respected. Yes. Okay. And of course, we could argue about that indefinitely, couldn't we? Because of course, you know the expression, no good deed goes unpunished. No good deed goes unpunished. And sometimes goodness is not its own reward. Yes? Okay. So there is that, isn't there? But that's another story. Then, of course, if we move from ethics as one of the other planks of our communication philosophy, we're landed right into courtesy, aren't we? But before we go to courtesy, are we also looking at the need for an awareness of the managerial style, the management style, which is dominating the environment in which we are communicating? And the major ones are, again, different textbooks might use different labels, but the major ones aren't they, the authoritarian style, the democratic style, and the laissez-faire style. Each of these has its own strengths and its own weaknesses, of course. But chances are that if you chose the rights-based system as the ethical system you would, stay with, if you had to stay with one only, chances are the democratic system would be your choice as well. For obvious reasons, they match with each other, don't they? Okay. Then, of course, did we also talk about the organizational cultures? The club, can I draw them again? Yes. We have the club, some people call it the family in quotation marks, and we represent it, of course, by the spider's web. Yes. Then, of course, there is the Greek temple, the role culture. Yes. Some books call it the club, and the role culture. And then there's the one represented by the net, which is the task culture. Yes. And then, of course, there is the one represented by the constellation. Yes. Which is, of course, the person culture. Some people call it the personality culture. Yes? Now, we have to be aware then that just as important as the management style is also what? The dominant organizational culture. It affects the communication that goes on, the style of communication that goes on within that workplace. And we have to be aware of that style if we want our communications to be paid attention to. It's that simple. Yes? Okay, let's go through that again. I think I was too far away from the iPad. We have 4 organizational cultures, major ones. Yes? We can be part of. Now we must recognize this. Yes? The organizational culture. These, of course, what? Can work along with the management styles, but also what? Miss Dishley, if you're too far away, your iPad mightn't pick up,
Oh, no, I can't. I got reset that. I can't. I'm taping right.
Okay. No, the organizational cultures do affect the communication styles in that particular environment. Don't underestimate it. Okay. The task culture is probably the one that most of you in this room are most comfortable in. Why is that? Because you wouldn't be in this room if you were not people who were concerned with getting the job done. Now, the task culture is suitably enough represented by a net. And the net is, of course, symbolic of what? Teamwork and effectiveness. If there's a hole in the fisherman's net, he can throw the fish out the net from here till doomsday. The fish will swim through that hole, and he'll go home with nothing. Isn't that the truth? Yes. So we're looking at teamwork and a stress on what? Getting the job done, meeting the challenge, meeting the deadline, getting the project finished, and moving on to the next. Now, typically, the people who are comfortable in the task culture, organizational culture, are people who are comfortable with deadlines, people who are very work-oriented. They have a strong work ethic. Yes? Often they are contract workers who work on projects. Yes? And they have the pressure of the contract and the project deadline all the time in the back of their minds. Communication in the task culture will vary depending on the deadline. It will be emails, phone calls, conversations, yes? But everything has to be fast and effective in the task culture. So, of course, then you can see where communication in the task culture is going to be crucial. It has to be accurate, fast, effective. Yes? Because the communication affects the meeting, the awareness of deadlines, and the meeting of deadlines and the accompanying need for teamwork. The people in the task culture do not waste time on small talk. Yes?
Time is money.
Time is money as far as they are concerned, and it is, isn't it? Then, of course, we have the role culture, which is represented by the Greek temple, where, of course, we know the Greek architects, yes, were always admired and still are admired. Why? Because the symmetry and order, yes, with which they built their buildings. These have stood the test of time and weather too, bad weather. Now, the role culture it demands that everything has a place and there's a place for everything. Yes? It demands absolute order. Its communications are done online and on paper too. People are not called by their names, they're called by their roles. The accountant, yes, the chairperson, etc., etc. Okay? And of course, the role culture makes us very aware that all communications have a legal implication. Communication in the role culture is slow.
You watch what you say.
You watch what you say and definitely watch what you write. And of course, it's quite much slower than the communication in the task culture where speed is emphasized. Yes? The role culture is extremely formal in the communications as well. And the role culture may be slow and may therefore annoy some people. But does the role culture actually keep good records of legally important issues and events?
That is why it's slow.
That's why it's slow. Exactly.
I gotta watch what I say because
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
record.
It's slow, but it's sure. Now, is that your typical civil service organizational culture, or say, for instance, the legal system and the police force? Of course. Yes. For obvious reasons. Okay. Then, of course, there's the club culture. The club culture keeps information as a form of power which is held by a single powerful leadership figure. This is why it's represented by the spider's web. Now, as the textbooks tell us, if the spider at the center of the communication and power is a good spider, this can be very effective. Why? Because the good spider can, of course, inspire people to have a stronger work ethic. In other words, good spiders, great leadership figures, are what? They're able to get other people to do what the other people didn't want to do. Yes? But of course, if it's a bad spider, then of course the organization will fall apart. But in the club culture, it is very clear that information is power. Yes? And of course, people make a joke, but it has some truth in it, when they say that in the club culture, the major communication strategy is telepathy, mind reading. Yes. That in the club culture, the workers tend to pick up, as the saying, as they put it colloquially, they pick up on the spider's body language.
Is that what happened?
Yeah, they learn to what?
In the U.S. with the closing of the bridge with the politician.
Sorry?
You know about the story in the U.S.
Oh, you mean with the guy, what's his
the
name?
bridge.
The closing of the bridge, and yeah, this
He said
lady.
he didn't know about it.
He said he didn't. That's what's his name again, Christie. Christie. He didn't know. Oh, we'll see about that. But in actual fact, the truth is that if he was running an organization null culture, that's the club culture, he would have had to know.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
And that's what he portrays.
He portrays that
it's a club culture, but then he deals with it as a task-based thing.
he manipulates the image of the system. Yeah, well, I guess, more of that will happen. But the club culture has its strengths because, of course, as we said, information is power. And if it's a good spider, the good spider will use that information effectively and may even use it to inspire workers. Okay. And then the last one is the person or the personality culture, that is the constellation, in which you have, often people are working on a contractual basis. They are very independent, very experienced and well-trained. Yes? Often quite gifted and talented people in their own fields. Yes? They work on a contractual basis, usually. You'll find this a lot, of course, in the music industry, the film industry, the entertainment industry. Yes? Okay. And these people, of course, will communicate through their expensive lawyers or through their expensive cell phones and iPads, etc. Yes? Now, and as in the task culture, in the person culture, the communication will vary according to the need. Yes? The communication style. Okay. But generally speaking, we are aware that whatever may be the organizational culture, the tone of our communication and the courtesy of our communication will make all the difference. Exactly. Now, let's get back then to what we were saying earlier on, namely, is courtesy in and of itself a form of communication? We know that rules of courtesy vary from culture to culture.
Certainly.
But despite these variations, is courtesy in and of itself a form of communication? Yes. Gerald was saying because courtesy, first, ensures a positive reaction. Yeah? And it ensures needed feedback.
Right.
That actually when you're courteous in communicating with people, you will get the needed feedback that you want, even if it is maybe not quite what you expected or not quite what you wanted, will it be needed feedback nonetheless? Why? Because the message of courtesy is, we care about you, I care about you, and I'm treating you as I would wish to be treated if I were in your shoes. And of course we know that courtesy is linked to the core virtue, charity. Yes? The Greeks talked about fortitude, prudence, temperance, and justice. The Christians talk about faith, hope, and charity. But we're very aware that charity is at the heart of temperance, self-control. In other words, control ourselves as to how we treat others. Yes? It's at the heart of justice.
Yes.
If we respect other people's right to justice and a fair deal, it's charity again, isn't it? Okay. And then, of course, charity could even be seen as at the heart of prudence. Namely, when we make wise decisions, we are also usually considering the rights of others. Okay. So, along with courtesy, then, we can put tone. And tone, of course, is the emotional dimension of the communication. It's not what we say, but it's how we say it that will dictate people's response. Yes, the body language, the eye contact, and on paper the words that we say and the words that we do not say. Yes or no?
Yes.
Is that why, for instance, Dr. Eric Williams, years ago, the big granddaddy and founder of the Trinidadian and Tobago economy, decided that he was going to outlaw certain words. Yeah? The N-word and the word Coolie or Llie for Indian, because you had a large black and a large Indian population. And if you use these words in public, you could be arrested. Yes, and fined. Now, was Williams obviously aware of the power of words and of tone and the emotional messages behind the tone and the word itself? Okay, let us then go back to our last reading where I was saying to you last time, it looked like a lot, but in actual fact, it covers a wide, useful spectrum of issues. First and foremost, we were talking about is courtesy dead or alive? Okay, we did A, B, and C, didn't we? And if we're looking at the competencies as termed by Daniel Goleman, of course, the most important of the competencies that underpin courtesy will be what Goleman calls self-mastery. What he calls self-mastery. In other words, self-control. Yes? And the other, it's not theirs. It was in the first set of handouts I gave you, but we can just discuss them now as we go along. It was in the first booklet I gave you. Interestingly, of course, self-mastery can go along with this other important virtue or important competence, as Goleman puts it, empathy. And guess what? Empathy is a second cousin to charity. Empathy is a more intense form of sympathy. Empathy means that we are able to identify with and appreciate the feelings of others as if we had somehow gotten into their heads or under their skins. Yes? Now, if we're controlling ourselves with what he calls self-mastery, and we are also using empathy, yes or no? Does this mean that courtesy will come easily? Or come naturally, if not easily?
I agree with that.
Yes, definitely. And does this mean then that courtesy itself communicates to others? I'm controlling myself. What the Greeks call temperance.
Right.
The control of all unruly emotions, as the Greeks put it.
Cousin to professionalism too, eh?
These are all second cousins to professionalism. Thank you. Thank you. In other words, people use this word professionalism loosely,
Yes.
don't they? Yes. And of course, empathy means I'm controlling my own emotions, but I'm also respecting and appreciating yours. Okay. So courtesy then can avoid a lot of problems. Now, you've never met this person before, but you find yourself having to communicate with them on emails quite often. Are you developing a relationship through those communications? If your communication from the get-go is always one of courtesy, by the time you meet that person in person, will you have already made a friend or an ally? Yes. Excuse me. You've already established a relationship, a positive one. You're going to get cooperation from that person when you finally meet them. Yes.
Marriage too.
Sorry?
Marriage too, huh?
A marriage?
Marriage.
A marriage?
Marriage. But after good communication, you know.
Yeah, it's like a marriage. But isn't that, it's an interesting point, because are a lot of our relationships with our work like marriages?
Yes. And the thing is
Yeah.
too, I mean, it's a long stretch, but you know, these days people meet online, they talk on Skype. And
Yeah, yeah.
Next thing you know,
They get married. Is this how some of these online dating services work?
right? They use communication to their advantage.
Yeah, yeah. Now it may work, it may last as a marriage, but of course, does it replace the old time people who used to get people together? Yeah?
Yeah,
And
different
you,
ways.
and you
Yeah.
start to the work.
Sorry?
And a lot of it actually work.
A lot of
When I
it.
first met my husband was online, not online. Through he worked labor department.
Yeah.
I work in HR. I used to communicate with him a lot on the phone and by email.
And then when you finally met, you felt like you knew each other.
Yeah, he got a sweet voice when you talk on the phone with him. Last
Oh,
night everybody is
dangerous.
tell me that. I'm like,
Okay.
I about that.
Okay. So it's true that the communication, whether it's face to face or not, can make all the difference. But as the first article we looked at, be careful with the send button, told us the face to face communication is easier in the sense that we have people's body language, their eye contact, their facial expressions to guide us as kind of, as he calls it, checks and balances. So the last handwritten question then was, which Greek and Christian virtues are most closely related to or reinforce polite behavior and courtesy? Obviously charity, yes? Obviously charity, and obviously what? Temperance, self-control, yes? Temperance and charity. The Greeks said that temperance was the control of all unruly passions and emotions. Yes.
And that's, most people never come to that.
Yeah, but isn't that what courtesy is also about? Yes or no? People do something terrible in front of, I don't know, you're in a line somewhere, this endless line, and the person in front of you let somebody else cut in front of them.
Right.
Now you could get hostile, or you could say, pardon me, but so and so. Yes? In other words, courtesy can make all the difference. Yes or no? I was fighting today with one of the first year students, the double entry people, because this girl sits with her legs open like this. She doesn't look at you when you're talking to her. She chats to the other girl across the aisle. She doesn't pay attention. And finally I said to her, no, you got it. Everybody's sitting up straight. We're going to take a deep breath. We're doing a visualization exercise. Sit up. She puts her jacket in front of her face. We need to see the eyes closed. So I finally said to her, no, this will not do. And she sucked her teeth at me. So I said,
It's been 30 years ago.
I said, no.
You know, see, that one
You
thing
have
I
to
do-
undo this. So she jumped up to leave and walked out. I said, fine, I'll get in touch with the supervisor. Perhaps even Mr. Buns. But does she need counseling to show her where this kind of street girl behavior is actually counterproductive to herself?
To our success.
Exactly. I'm saying to them, if you want to go to the washroom, don't just get up and leave. Say, excuse me. Okay. So then,
You know, that one of the things that I admire about teachers because I could not teach. You suck your mouth at me, slap you right in it. You tell one of mine suck them teeth at me, I put something I don't know.
but the teenagers, especially those who are substituting, they're doing the last year of high school over here. It's called double entry as the first year over here. And some of them really, yeah,
Send them back to sci-fi.
are they in need of courtesy training?
I wonder if that's
Yeah.
one of them that I just give warning to.
Maybe. Okay. Can you make it a little warmer in here for us, please? Anybody? Okay. This one says, please address the following. It makes you feel like you've stepped out of the ark when you're talking to them about courtesy and so on. They think, oh, how old-fashioned.
Yes,
But they don't know that that can actually gain them a job or lose them a job.
But what is acceptable in their circle is not
What is acceptable in their peer group is not necessarily courtesy.
right.
But do we have to make them understand that the world is not their peer group?
Yeah.
And the workplace
That is where the problem
is not their peer group?
That is
I had to
no-
speak to a bunch when
Yeah.
I had to speak with a bunch that right where you went the other day.
Yeah,
The loudness of the voices
yeah,
and
and
the
the language.
body language.
Yeah.
And pardon the use of the part of the phrase. I told a part of person, I said, listen, this is not a ghetto.
Yes, yes, yeah.
You
Yeah,
know, when the president, the whole place, and catching it.
yeah, yeah.
I said,
No, no, no. This is not.
But that's the
culture.
Mm-hmm.
not only culture, but that seems to be part of that person's DNA. As
Mm-hmm.
much as
Yeah, because you learn
Yeah.
as much as I've said it over and
You
over,
learn from who?
keep the voices down.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like something's wrong with that volume button. It must be stuck on high.
Yeah, yeah. It's, in a sense, they are victims of the peer group.
Get upset. I got problem
But-
with volume button too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem is that old habits are hard to break.
It's unfortunate
Yeah.
though, how as you were talking about the personality culture, how it is that somebody through their personality, who they're gifted, so they're able to bring a large number of people to themselves.
The entertainment industry,
Right.
yeah.
Work hard
Mm-hmm.
with these proper communication skills, and when you check
Yeah.
their personal work ethic, it is at such a high standard, but the
Mhm.
product or what they deliver to these young people,
Is negative.
because that's what the young people buy and that's what they adhere to. And that's
Or
what
is it
money-
that that's what, they have this expression, give the people what they want.
That's what I'm saying. That's
But
what
can we influence what they want? Are people assuming that in actual fact what the young people and what the public will want will be something quite vulgar and rude and with a very, very low morale attached to it, and low morals perhaps? What was it? Wasn't it Gregory Isaacs who used to say, you can sing culture or you can sing slackness. I think it was Gregory Isaacs.
I don't know what you're saying.
Or either Gregory Isaacs or Barry Hammond.
Right.
That you can sing culture or you can sing slackness. In other words, let us not assume that what they call slackness, this kind of stuff, is what people necessarily want. Because in actual fact, we can sing words that have positive values attached, which in actual fact, people will buy. Yes? If we think of somebody like, say for instance, Celine Dion. I've actually never heard her sing a song with any negative words in it or anything like that.
Right.
But, and remember when she first came to America, the Americans laughed and called her the Canadian string bean because she was so thin.
Would move on stage.
But what's the thing? All she has to do is open her mouth and make some more millions. But then she, of course, is truly gifted.
That is
Do
true.
some of the not so gifted performers and communicators substitute what Gregory calls slackness for talent? And is this where we need control systems? I do feel so. You were saying somebody else, initially.
What my coworker showed me something on Facebook today with this Chinaman doing this experience with rice. He get 3 bowls of rice and he put it in
Yeah.
water. One of the bowl of rice, every day he said to it, "Good morning, hi, how are you?" He was very polite.
Yeah.
One bowl of rice he didn't speak to. In the other one he was negative. Within a month,
Yeah.
the bowl of rice that he was negative with turned green.
Uh-huh.
It rotten. The bowl of rice that
Uh-huh.
he didn't speak to, it turned black. And the bowl of rice that he
Uh-huh.
was very nice to, it started turning like making
Getting fluffier.
fine. Yeah, fluffier in what you call it. But he
Expand.
was trying to express that with how you treat the children.
Yeah.
Because your body, what they're saying, your body is like 60% of water.
Uh-huh.
So whatever you put in is what you actually gets back out. So they were trying to do that with experiment with kids that, how do you say,
I believe
showing
it.
them
I believe it.
good,
Interesting.
being nice and stuff like that.
It's a very
They
good, yeah.
become to grow up a nice person. But if you're being negative to them,
Yeah.
they all the time just
Or if you ignore them.
I was like, whoa, when I see
Can you email it to us?
I'll have to get my coworker to send it to
Okay.
me.
It's interesting, of course, because
No,
the
it's
more
a
we deal with
Facebook
communication, is the more we're aware of how the communication to children and the young can make a difference. But does society, do we all have to be communicating the same messages and values, the same positives?
Like if
Yes.
you speak negative things over your kids? Or
Yes, and curse bad words
Yeah,
in front of
tell
them,
them
and
they
then you
come out
turn
to be
around,
nothing.
and when they start cursing, you hit them.
But even if you tell them like they're not going to come up to be anything.
Oh
that
yes,
makes
the
them
people
mad.
who tell their children you'll never come out to be anything. Don't we know it? Okay, let's have a look at the questions one. Are we looking at one onwards in the booklet? Do we all have the booklet attached to courtesy, etc.? Are we on the same page? I have some extras here if you need. Yeah? Okay. Can we? Are we looking at questions that have to do with structure first? The messages of the passage were very strong. They also pointed out a terrible irony but a common contradiction, that many people feel that it doesn't matter if they are not courteous to people of a lower income bracket or people whom they perceive as unimportant. Exactly. Now, in a small society, can this backfire on us? Because the person that you were rude to in the line in the supermarket, you bumped into them with your cart and you refused to even say, I'm sorry. You acted as if they didn't exist. Yes? Might be the same person interviewing you for this job on Monday.
Might be the premier of Cayman too.
Thank you.
Tell my boss.
You don't know who it could be. In other words, a small environment can actually exert some positive control systems on us if we are thoughtful.
Have to be responsible.
Because what goes around will come around much faster in a small environment. Isn't that the truth? Yes or no? Yes? It's not like New York. You're America. You're in New York and you are obnoxious to this person in the line at the drugstore. And you'll never see them again. But, and you move to California and you probably will never see them again. It's not like America. In other words, the smaller the environment, the faster things will come around to haunt us. Okay, which are the major types of writing? Now it says more than one may apply. We must assess all options, no guesswork. Which are the major types? Are we looking at narration as in happenings? Yes. But we got a handout about types of writing, did we? Yes, the two that are most problematic, that we make the most mistakes about, are narration and description. Here they are. Do we need them? We got them last time. So I copied those. Now the description gives us a visual word picture that involves little or no happening. Yes? As we may have said, the descriptive writing, initially, do you need this? Donna, do you need this? The descriptive writing will often do what? We'll come upon a lot of it if we work in a travel agency, an art gallery, such places. Yes? An art department, or maybe even certain departments in a hotel. Yes, advertising, yes. It's narration, yes. They do quite a bit of storytelling, of giving us events. But do they use description as much as they use narration? Not really. So narration, yes, but description, not really. Do we wish to accept both parties in the pair if we're going to accept that pair? It's like they are married to each other, the options, yes? So expository and argumentative or persuasive. Does the writer discuss, analyze, expose, explain the issue, and try to persuade us to accept an argument about how crucial courtesy is?
Yes.
So we want number B, don't we?
Yes.
What about number C? Narration, storytelling with events skillfully integrated into the ongoing discussion. Would we agree with that?
Yes.
Yes. So we would have chosen D, B, and C above. Are we in agreement?
Yes.
Yes.
What
Now,
number is that?
we're at number 1.
Oh,
Okay, the types of questions. Okay. Now, they might seem irrelevant, but are they some of the invisible building blocks of good writing and classic paragraph structure? Yes or no?
Yes.
Of course. Okay. The main type of paragraph used in paragraph 2, it says circle 1 only. Now, there are some people who ignore those things and they'll circle 2 regularly. Paragraph 2 says, morally speaking, there are standards of conduct that are accepted as right and proper. That one looks like either a thesis statement or a strong topic sentence. Yes? Ethics, morality, and courtesy are triplets that work together to encourage harmonious living within any society. Would we agree with that?
Yes.
Does that definitely look like a thesis statement? Yes. Both of them are contenders, strong contenders, aren't they, for thesis statement? They seem to actually hit the nail on the head, don't they? And they do present arguments. Much of what is practiced as good manners is passed on through the educational process, whether it is the informal kind received at home, that which is taught in educational institutions, or what is gained in a religious setting. What we learn at home, what we used to call home training, what is taught in educational institutions like me and that young lady, that girl this morning, yes? And of course, religion can help a lot. Why? Because all religions, worth their name, stress charity, and charity is the second cousin of courtesy. Isn't that the truth? Yes. Okay. What are we looking at here? Aren't we looking at either C or what about D?
C or D,
Yeah. Would either C or D have been equally acceptable
Well,
as a major type? We want one only. But D would have been better because it hits,
thought-provoking.
it actually gets both, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So we're happy with D?
Yes.
Paragraph 2 offers, here we are, an opening thesis paragraph. We were just saying that it had those two strong contenders there for thesis statement. Yes. A useful definition of manners, courtesy, ethics, and morals as part of an essential continuum of desirable behavior.
Yes.
They all seem to lead into each other as something that continues, a continuum. Exactly. What about a recipe for conduct that builds and preserves civil society?
Yes.
Would we all of the above? Thank you. Okay. Paragraph 2 is mostly connected in thought to, in other words, what the textbooks call unity. Do good communicators keep coming back to the same main points that they want us to get? And they actually link the ideas between...
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry?
No, I'm saying, sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
It's like harmony, kind of.
It's a kind of harmony, exactly. You're a musician. Yes. Okay. Musicians do it by repeating the same notes at certain points, yes? And songwriters, of course, do it by repeating the same things in the chorus.
Across the chorus,
Yeah. Okay. Let's look at paragraph 4 and paragraph 2. Maybe 4. Let's look at 7. Oh, 7.
Oh, there's 7.
7 says, 7 nails it, doesn't it? 7 says, I believe that being courteous, having an attitude of care, showing considerations for others, is a basic spiritual principle, etc., etc., etc. Doesn't that link us right up with what he says to us in paragraph 2 about the moral aspects of courtesy?
You can Google it.
Okay, will you email it?
Okay.
The-
You got Google
Okay,
Dr. Immortal Water.
hold it, don't lose
No
it.
problem.
And then
No
we can
problem.
put it up here afterwards, okay? It's a very, I should take that for them and put it on the projector.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, are we looking at paragraph 7? Is that the best of the lot? What about, but 13, let's just triple check. 13, that was example and illustration, wasn't it? Yes, yes, yes. In other words, he's giving an example of, let's face it, you didn't mean to bump into this lady with your cart in the supermarket and make her fall down. You didn't mean to do it. Do you lose anything by saying I'm sorry and helping her to get up? No.
At least, especially if you be sincere about it. A person
Exactly.
could see if you're sincere because you just, oh, I'm sorry.
And you walk
And
away.
You walk away like, okay, you wasn't really sorry.
No.
And then a lot of
No.
people use the body language when they say things, so.
Yeah.
But you could look a person in the eye and see if they're sincere or not.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you didn't mean to splash this person with the water with your car,
I'll tell
but
you
it
something
doesn't. You
about-
don't lose anything by saying you're sorry. You
I can
didn't
tell
mean
you
to
something
do it.
about different countries. Because people in the States, they say, oh, sorry. They're all the time, oh, sorry. But sincerely, they don't really mean it. A Caribbean person or, we say sorry, you could see that they more mean it. But Americans go back and say, oh, sorry. Oh,
And then they're
it's like,
gonna about their business.
The Brits won't say anything. The Brits won't say anything.
Huh?
The Brits won't say anything.
Some of them won't, yeah.
They won't even wink.
Who?
The British.
Oh, they work.
Really? Let's face it, I think in the Caribbean we have a tendency to try to hold on to what our parents used to call home training.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Bring up say.
Brought up, see. They call it brought up, see, in the Bahamas.
I have no products. Some of them say.
Okay, number 5? Which ethical systems are most closely related to manners, courtesy, and the generally accepted rules of behavior? Is it the rules-based, the rights-based, or the utility?
Rules, rights.
Rules and rights.
Rules and rights, perhaps? Though, of course, you could argue
All
that it's all three because it is of most utility to the whole community
That's what I have.
if we actually treat each other with courtesy. It's actually most useful to ourselves. Well, of course, there are some people who think if you're courteous to them, you're a wimp. Yes? Or you just stepped out of the ark, What do you mean? Yes? Sorry?
You're not normal.
No. Which core Christian virtue is most closely connected to the above rules of behavior? Charity. Okay. Now, list 5 tones that are most opposed to or destructive to the above rules, the rules of courtesy. Rudeness,
Arrogance.
arrogance, yes.
Patronizing.
patronizing. I'm talking down to you, idiots. I've just come down from the mountain with the word. Yes, talking down to them. What else? Hostile, judgmental, derogatory, insultive. Yes. Yes.
There's number 6.
Number 7.
Number 7.
Yeah. Sarcastic, sardonic, cynical. In fact, are these also rules that are some of the no-nos on the job in our professional communication? Rudeness, arrogance, the patronizing tone, hostile tone, insultive, judgmental, sarcastic, derogatory tones, cynical, sardonic, biased tones. And which of the following classic management styles is or are most likely to value and practice the foregoing rules of courtesy? Authoritarian, laissez-faire, or democratic? Democratic, definitely. The authoritarian management style says take it or leave it, my way or the highway, full stop. The laissez-faire says let's all do our own thing. Yes, right?
This is a free world.
Yes. Live and let live, or of course, live and let die.
Everybody's high.
Right, yes. Live and let die. It's a democratic system which will most value, of course, what? Manners and courtesy and the rules thereof. Right? Which communication style is our, sorry?
That question there.
8?
Yeah. I thought the foregoing would have been the number 7.
The foregoing rules.
As in
The rules of polite behavior, as in number 5.
5.
Okay? Okay. The foregoing rules, the rules of polite behavior, yeah? They say the above rules, the foregoing rules, the rules of polite behavior, yeah? Which communication style is or are most likely to value and practice the foregoing rules? The thinker and the socializer. The director
He's a
isn't,
little bit behind, way behind, but
yeah. The director isn't likely to pay too much attention to courtesy, and
because they're more like saying,
because the director is the authoritarian type who simply says,
Down the hammer.
listen, yeah, listen. I've come down from the mountain with the word, and you will all just shut up and listen. I know what I'm talking about. You will not question. You will just listen. Are we looking at 8 democratic and 9 thinker and socializer? Are we all together?
Yes.
Which of the following is most likely to connect to, respect, and or practice the foregoing rules? It should have been is/are. Yes? Are we looking at the Greek virtue of temperance? Yeah, if you have self-control, you will tend to be polite. Then, of course, emotional intelligence. Yes.
and the Christian virtue.
The Christian virtue, charity. Negative listening styles will not practice courtesy, because the negative listening styles include things like checking your phone while somebody is talking to you, checking your emails, and then, of course, things like refusing to actually listen to the whole message. I listen halfway through and then I interrupt you, and so on and so on. Yeah, these are not courteous. Okay. What are the major tones of this essay? A, analytic and critical. Insightful and
Persuasive.
persuasive, or insightful and it suggests maybe thought-provoking, would you say? Instead of suggestive as a tone, perhaps thought-provoking. Hostile and sardonic, never. Concerned and serious. Maybe even a bit worried about society. Concerned and, sorry, cautioning. Does he deliver a warning straight through about the importance of courtesy? Yes. Concerned and serious, concerned and worried, concerned and cautioning, concerned and mature. Yes?
Certainly.
Okay. What are the major tones of paragraph 2 of this essay? The one that says morally speaking, etc., that strong paragraph. Is it dictatorial and hostile? Authoritarian and aggressive? Informative and persuasive? Thought-provoking? Yes. And for D, could we have insightful and serious? Yes. Insightful and what else? Could we even have caring? Yes. Okay. Insightful and serious, insightful and caring. Insightful and mature. Informative and persuasive. Informative and thoughtful. Informative and mature. Well, lots. It's a powerful paragraph. Does it set the stage for everything else? Is it well positioned as number 2? Early. Paragraphs 13, okay. Number 14, let's do first. To whom would you most strongly recommend this essay as a source of thought and self-improvement? Remember, read every word on the page. Number 14, readership. Do we accept A as it stands?
No.
Purely in order for them to improve sales.
No. That part, no.
Those who work in supermarkets and boutiques, purely in order for them to increase sales. Would that be the reason to tell them to read this? It's actually purely in order to improve themselves and everything else. Yes, including sales.
Certainly. It's more than...
Yeah, because the truth is, if they improve their own attitudes, the positive sales will come. Why? Because we have a tendency to go back to where we are treated nicely. It's not just the price that counts.
So courtesy is magnetic.
It is. It is. It is.
It is.
Don't you find it on the job?
Certainly.
Dealing with the public?
I want to speak to this man.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that, no.
Mm.
Tell them I leave me alone.
Yeah. People will come into the police station and say, I want to speak with that one. Why? Because that is the one who was courteous to them and treated them in a humane way.
I want to talk to you, sir. You will flash about that and you threaten me. I don't want nothing to do with you.
Yeah, exactly. That people respond to how they are treated. It's amazing. All persons who work in the hotel industry and interact with persons from varied cultures daily. Yes or no?
Yes.
Definitely. All democratic managers in local government offices.
Yes.
Yes. Also the authoritarian ones. All of my co-workers. Yes. But the A I would question purely. I don't think that's the real one and only pure reason for increasing, say, for being courteous. Okay, let's do number 13. Paragraphs 13 and 14, taken together and read as a unit, use or present. Let's go back. Who is going to read 13 and 14 for us? The gentleman in the back. What's the name again?
Roberto,
Sorry?
Nevron.
Nevron, will you read number 13 and 14 for us, please?
It is never bad manners to say I'm sorry if you bump into someone. Tread on their toes, cause them to drop something, or misunderstand what they say. But it is impolite to engage in a long, loud conversation on a mobile telephone while one is at the dinner table, on a bus, train, or in any public place.
Are we looking at facts and evidence, example and illustration, but also comparison and contrast? Does the telephone industry, does telephone technology introduce a whole new horizon of bad behavior? Oh, yes.
But at the dinner table, I do agree with that, but at the bus, in the train, I wouldn't agree because come see, I don't know how long time me, I don't care. I don't want to bother hitting on me and talking foolishness to me. I get on the phone with somebody, I chat with ignore them.
But you have to be careful how loudly you speak. Isn't that the problem?
But that's what
Yeah, I know.
the loudness, loud.
Yes.
Or actually, I wouldn't even get on the phone. I'll get up in the internet or pretend I'm on the phone.
Maybe.
They ignore the
But
person
the
beside me.
people on the airlines are thinking of allowing cell phone usage on planes. And the people, a lot of the people working on the planes, the air hostesses, the stewards, and even the pilots are saying no, dangerous.
It is dangerous, but I still see people use it.
Oh yes.
Oh God,
Oh,
that
yes,
gets on my
yes,
nerves
yes.
when the light come on and they say and it's
Oh
they
no
turn off all
no.
and everybody turning
Oh.
it off. People turning theirs on.
No, it can be very dangerous.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
But are we looking at obeying rules as connected to courtesy as well,
Yeah.
but also connected to survival?
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing. Okay, can we continue, please, my friend?
Yes. Long lines may
Maybe.
be bothersome, but it is never the courteous thing to jump ahead of others in any queue. Neither should you help friends, relatives, or acquaintances to do so especially when those behind you have been waiting in line for a long time. You mentioned that earlier.
That's example and illustration.
Right.
Yes.
Too often, sometimes because of a person's station in life, she is treated disrespectfully.
Topic sentence, and is the tone both critical and ironic?
Right.
It's pointing out a contradiction.
Always try to be civil and polite to shop assistants, restaurant staff, or people who work in business establishments.
Yeah. Is he being persuasive in the tone there? Yes. In fact, if people are handling your food, you should always have a good relationship with them.
You better do that.
And always be polite to them. Yes. Thank you.
If you have to complain, do so in a non-aggressive but firm and civil manner. The word please is quite appropriate. If a request is being made, and a nice thank you should be given on completion of the request. It wouldn't hurt to concur with the Apostle Paul's suggestion in Romans 12:18. It be possible, as much as life in you, live peaceably with all men.
Yes. It doesn't mean that we want to be a doormat.
Stop on the
No.
You wouldn't go that far. Turn the other cheek.
No.
Well, that might lead to the doormat existence. But we don't have to retaliate in kind. We don't have to respond in kind. If we treat others as they have treated us, or as they treat us, we will then be letting them set the standard for our behavior.
Thirdly,
Why? And, we might become rhymes with riches. If they've treated us nastily, do we really want to take ourselves to their level to respond to the same treatment?
so
But you might simply want to get out of their range. Yes? As I say in the Bahamas, see them coming. It's an interesting expression. See them coming. Yeah.
See them coming and leave.
Sorry?
See them coming and you leave.
Okay. Are we looking at example and illustration?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Supporting details used as example and illustration. Comparison and contrast.
Yes.
Yes.
Irony in tone and content. Yes?
yes,
Yes. When he says, for instance, people have a tendency to believe it's only necessary to be polite to those that we perceive as important. Critical and mature tones.
that is
Yes.
true,
A thoughtful integration of religious and social values. Sorry about the typing error. Yes. An authoritarian approach to manners, ironically enough. No.
No.
Does he support everything he says in a way that is very, very courteous but also full of common sense? Yes.
And firm and strong.
Yes. Useful transitions including, well, we know we can always rely on but,
But also had neither. He used neither.
and what else?
Neither.
Neither, where's neither?
Where is that? Let me see where it is. No.
What about too often in paragraph 14?
Yes.
Yes or no? Yes? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in paragraph 13,
We have paragraph 13.
5 lines on the bottom.
Yes. Especially, perhaps. But paragraph 13, neither. Yes. That's like and as well. Or also. It's adding to the list of the no-nos. Yes? And, but, neither, too often. Okay. Are we looking at any sexist stereotype that assumes that women are more polite than men are?
No.
No. Okay. Notes to yourself now on what you have gained from this essay and the entire exercise. I'm going to keep quiet. Give you a moment. Okay. Now for homework, I won't see you till Wednesday. And last time we didn't leave here till 6 o'clock on Wednesday. And if we want to stay next time, we'll try to. Yes? Do we need to go over all
material.
our materials so far? Could I be coming up with a kind of wrap-up quiz? Excuse me, of some kind?
Can I have another one?
Sorry. Yes or no? Is it about time? Yes?
Well, we'll have what, about 5 days hopefully to go over all of this.
I almost
Okay.
said yes before she finished.
Yes?
No.
Okay. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute now and ask you to write a note to yourself from what you gained from this entire exercise. Did we gain information just about paragraph structure, or did we gain other things too? Okay? Now, how to close this thing? Now, Roberto will have it on the blog, in about 3 days' time. So if you see the other policemen, will you just tell them, okay? What do I do, Miss Disher? Press here. Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Press here.
To open back.
Yeah.
So you got to stop it now.